Hello, and welcome to episode 108 of the Wine Educate podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Close, and today we're focusing on a grape focus of Gewurztraminer. I was just going to do this for level 2, but it's just a tiny little paragraph for level 2. But you know what? It's just a tiny little paragraph for level 3 as well. However, this grape is really interesting and important. So we're going to cover it in detail for level 2 and level 3 with extra info. So why Gewurztraminer? Why does it matter? I'll tell you a story. I do tasting in class and often outside of the classroom. I was at a wine bar last night and there were winemakers there and lots of blind tasting happening. I thought, gosh, I don't really feel like blind tasting right now. Sometimes there's more drinking wine and less thinking. And I was in that sort of a mood. And of course, someone put a glass of wine in front of me and we're all like, what is it? What is it? And I was thinking about this podcast that I would be recording. And I thought to myself, well, if it was Gewurztraminer, that would make my life a lot easier because Gewurztraminer is probably the world's most recognizable grape. I say this because I hear it in my classroom. You say, Joanne, my nose is broken. And newsflash, your nose is not broken. You're just not used to describing aromas in a wine in a glass. If you walk outside into the world and the garbage truck has just rolled by, certainly, unfortunately, in that moment, your nose is certainly not broken. So it works, but it just takes a little practice. And if you're still feeling a little despondent about your tasting abilities, go get a Gewurztraminer from Alsace and it will awaken your nose, okay? This is a great wine for being able to clearly identify very specific aromas and flavors. Pronunciation and meaning. Pronunciation, Gewurztraminer. It's a bit of a mouthful, but once you get used to saying it, it's kind of fun to say it. Gewürz meaning spice in German, hence the umlaut, right? Those 2 dots over the U. In many instances, the umlaut is dropped, so it's spelled without it. So what does the Traminer part refer to? Okay, I had to prevent myself from doing a really deep dive on this morning because if you like ancestry and DNA fingerprinting, just Google Traminer vine, Traminer history, and there's all these wonderful charts of which grape came from who and which grape was the parent of this and so on and so forth. Fascinating. But Traminer is a very ancient grape from which many of the grapes that we know today came from. It's linked to the Sauvignon family. Your ears might be perked up. Yes, so Sauvignon Blanc is part of this, and so is Gewurztraminer. So Gewurztraminer is a clonal mutation of Sauvignon, which comes from the Traminer family. Historical origins, well, it got that umlaut, right? So Germany. First references were from 1827 in the Rheingau, where Gewurztraminer first appeared. First mentions in Alsace in 1886. We know from our previous podcast episodes that Alsace really is the main home of this grape. Because of the climate. Climate is really important for grapes, and for Gewurztraminer, super important. It is best suited in a cool to moderate climate. It has to have that long, cool growing season because it is dangerously low in acidity. And without that precious little acidity, it drops and you are left with a wine, my friend, that begins with the F word, and that I mean flabby. And we do not want a flabby wine. So in warmer climates, it grows, but you will lose that acidity and you don't get the balance and the quality of Gewurztraminer that you find in these cool to moderate climates. Vineyard challenges. Well, because of this low to medium acidity, you have to be careful about when you harvest. It builds sugar rapidly, and your resulting wine can be high in alcohol. Don't just think it's red wines that can be high in alcohol. You get a glass of Gewurztraminer, it has a good chance of being 14% or higher. So what is this like in the glass? Full-bodied because of this extra alcohol with rich, oily texture. I don't know how many other grapes there are out there that get the word oily associated with it. And that's because of this dip in acidity. So low to medium acidity and high alcohol. The color, if you saw my slides on YouTube, you can see this grape has quite a bit of pink coloring. So the resulting wine can have a deep gold color. Aromas and flavors. All right. So maybe you went out and you bought your Alsatian Gewurztraminer. You've got it in the glass. And I bet you, if you did that, you can smell these things without even needing to stick your nose in the glass. This is the very definition of a pronounced wine. What are we getting here on the nose? This aromatic, spicy nose. The spice for me is not just on the nose. When I taste this wine, there's almost like this electric, crackly feeling. If you've eaten those Pop Rock candies that kind of pop in your mouth when you eat them, to me, that's the sensation I get with Gewurztraminer. Key aromas, lychee, rose, sweet baking spices. This rose and lychee is so distinct. And if you don't know what a lychee nut is, maybe you have an Asian market close by and you can go and get one and taste it to add this aroma to your sensory database. I just had to talk a little bit about the words used to describe Gewurztraminer because no other grape gets words like pungent. Pungent is an intense word. Talk about the garbage truck going by. Pungent aroma. They mean it in a good way, though. And then words like exotic. Oh, wow. Flamboyant. Whoa. And then this oily, right? Oily, spicy, intensely perfumed. There is nothing shy about the grape Gewurztraminer. And I've had this image in my mind all morning of like this gal with purple hair going off to a rave with a bunch of glow sticks. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Very distinct, pronounced wine. Just a quick note. I am releasing a Gewurztraminer quiz for level 2 students and an essay question in the newsletter this week. If you haven't signed up, go to wineeducate.com, click on the green newsletter sign up button. If you're watching my slides on YouTube, I give you a QR code. You can scan that sucker. Alsace is the spiritual home of Gewurztraminer. It is one of the 4 noble grape varieties, can be used for Grand Cru, produces some of the region's highest quality wines. Indeed, it can be used for Vendage Tardive, right, late harvest, or Selection Grand Noble, because it has all the sugar. This is sugar accumulation, and therefore it can make these sweeter style of wines. How important is it in Alsace? We said it's one of the top 4 noble grape varieties. It's about 18.6% of plantings, roughly 3,000 hectares that are planted here. And Alsace holds roughly 1/3 of the world plantings of Gewurztraminer. Within Alsace itself, it's only second to Riesling in plantings. So really important here. We mentioned because the climate is perfect for the best expression of this grape. Where else is it planted? Well, certainly Germany. That's its ancestral home, so around 1,000 hectares. It's planted in lots of other places, but I'm going to focus on a few major ones here. New Zealand, around 200 hectares. And then your level 3 book does mention Chile, and specifically Biobío and the Etata valleys, where there are some small plantings. Other important regions, and these are regions that I think have some really good potential, and that's places like Washington State, specifically Columbia Valley and cooler AVAs, and then the Finger Lakes. This is kind of exciting for me. I'm always rooting for the Finger Lakes because it's cool climate, aromatic wines are what grows there, And why not? Gewurztraminer, plant a little more there, Finger Lakes people, please. Also, Australia and Alto Adige, small plantings, but quality focused. I need to go to Australia to poke around, taste some of these Rieslings and Gewurztraminers. All right, something else that we have created for you. You asked for exam practice. We've created the Level 2 mock exam bundle. This has 3 Level 2 exams. That's 150 questions total. I will include the link to that in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can scan the QR code to help you all with your studying. Go and find your Gewurztraminer and see for yourself if it is exotic and pungent and oily. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate you very much, and I will talk to you again next week.